We are now live. I get excited every time we do this. This is like the third live broad stream we've done, or stream we've done on YouTube. And I get a chance to have a conversation with another amazing human being. Now, we talk about the corporate journey. We talk about transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurship. But it's not just about the journey. It's all the layers and all the pit stops that it takes for you to actually get to where you want to go. But here's the kicker. Finding out who you are on your way is even more rewarding. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree.
And if you guys got a chance to see the episode, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So, first of all, let me introduce this kind soul real quick. The Brandon Ramsey is the star of today's episode, and we talked about him going from engineer to photographer. Along in the journey, what I really mostly connect with is your compassion, your ability to work with young people, your ability to like tap into the community and truly like bring your gift to life. But then the last part is you taking a chance, you betting on yourself.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing ever. So I'm going to stop right there and let you introduce yourself to the folks, and then we'll get into the conversation.
So for those who don't know, my name is Brandon Ramsey. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, which is in the DMV area, if you're not too familiar with it. And what was it, like a year or two ago? I decided to take the jump. I quit my job and I ended up moving to Atlanta to become a full-time photographer. And so during that journey, I went to a couple, I guess you can say, meetups or content creation meetings, and that's why I met Ariel. She ended up wanting a headshot, and from there we just connected, and we've been been rocking ever since.
Ever since, let me tell y'all, any picture that you've seen where you're like, "Ooh, who does that picture?" It was probably Brandon who did it. Like, no lie. So, if you guys are curious about that, then we can get into the photography piece for sure. But you mentioned your journey, right? You decided to come to Atlanta from Virginia, and I think that when people look at, when I look at photography, I'm gonna just speak from my perspective. I see photography as a fun business. Like, I'm like, that would be lit to be able to be in the room, to be able to take pictures of some of the folks who are like just amazing. I'm on my own journey of being someone in the background, right? So for you as a photographer, is that the quintessential work and play role?
Yeah, yes, yeah, yes, and no. I'm about to say it's cool, but sometimes you get a couple clients and you're just like, oh, I'm just ready to get this done. But for the most part, I love it. When we talk on the podcast, on the podcast in the episode, and I told you about like that moment. So like when you first open that gift and you get that, burst of joy, or I've been wanting this all year. I love capturing that moment. So that brings it all back to the center for me.
Yeah, 100%. And for you to be able to like just jump out and follow whatever that feeling was, that's amazing. So shout out to Real Men Get It Done for being here and dropping a comment. If you guys are still here, let us know where you're from, where you're coming from, whether you're here to support Brandon or you're here for the Work and Play podcast, what city you're in, all of that. Because we definitely want to engage back with you. So, Brandon, another thing. Oh, what were you about to say?
No, I said for sure, you're good.
Absolutely. Another thing that we got into was your civic mindedness, right? I posted a clip on the page where you were talking about the day your camera was stolen. Now, for a lot of people, they would have been like, "Listen, I guess this is a sign from God that I should not do this anymore, right? I guess this is my sign that I need to let go of my dream." Like it was causing me too much headache anyway. I needed to go back to my job anyway. Like, why did you decide in that moment not to quit? And if you feel free to share a little bit more context so folks know what you're talking about.
Got you. So you're referring to a time where I was actually a manny in a house for guys who were looking to get on track. So we were dealing with a bunch of guys most of them were from Africa. So they were here trying to get green cards, learn English, get through school. So I was part of a program and I had the opportunity to be a manny, and I was in a house with about 9 or 10 guys. So at times it was a struggle, it was tough. Some students were on track, some guys weren't. So it came to a point where I came home one day from work and I realized my door was open. And so when I went in there, I went into my closet and I seen that most of my tennis shoes and my clothes were gone. So for me, that was all right, because I looked where I had like all my camera gear and all my electronics, and that whole little case that I had was gone. And so I was upset at the moment. I talked to the person who was kind of running the program. He kind of like helped me sell it out. But then it came for me, it was to a point like, all right, I've been playing around with this. I kind of like photography. I spent my money on this camera, the lenses. I've been doing a couple jobs, and it's like, now what do I do? Like, I don't really have anything going on. I can't shoot anything. So then when I started to look at cameras, and I was like, okay, you're at a point now. Either you can go back into this photography, and pursue it full time, or you can leave it where it is as a hobby. It's dead. It's done. Pick up something else and keep it moving.
Yeah.
And so I kind of asked myself for a couple of weeks, like, is this something that I really want to do? Is photography what I really like? Do I want to pursue this? Is this a passion? And I realized that was a yes, because I started getting calls. I was going to people events and I wasn't able to shoot. And I just felt like out of place. And I was just like, I was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. So it really came to a head, like I said, when I went to the store and I was like, bet. I did my research. I'm looking at these different cameras. I'm looking at Canon, Nikon, Sony. And everybody at the time was telling me that the Nikon was the best for photography. But the camera they were telling me was like 2700. And I was like, hold up. Like, do you really want to pursue this? Like, you could just let this go right now. We ain't got to worry about this 2700. So, but all in all, I ended up pulling the trigger, and I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
I didn't realize. Thank you so much for expounding on that part of the journey, because I didn't realize it was like. So what I'm picking up right now is your dedication. Not only was it your dedication, but your willingness to invest. So I didn't realize it was you had done the pricing. You were looking at other cameras to purchase, and it was 2,700.
Yeah.
That right there, I have to ask you, in your journey, right? One of the values that I explore for corporate professionals transitioning into entrepreneurship is education. Like, how do they value education? How do they put their value of monetary on things like investing in themselves, like investing and that kind of stuff? So before you invested 2,700, where was your mindset around investing in yourself, education? Like you said, hey, is this going to be a hobby, or am I going to invest this 2,700? So what was the shift for you?
Yeah. So I don't think at the time I realized the shift that it was. Like, now being in this environment, I understand those terms, investing in yourself, all of those. But back then I was just like, bro, I'm not trying to work here forever. Like, I need to find something I can do. And so people were telling me, like, yo, you're pretty decent at this. Like, you're pretty good. And then when it came to the knowledge, I had a lot of that, because I would go to places and, people would be like, oh, I can't shoot in this, so I need this. And I'm like, nah, just turn your settings to X, Y, and Z, put this on there, or point your flash this way, and it will work. And they was like, damn, like, okay, I can do this. Like, thank you, bro. Like, you're pretty cool. I didn't know that even existed. And so realizing that I had a lot more knowledge than the people that I were attending their events and going to, I'm like, okay, all right, man, I might be good at this or something. Because I'm usually, when it comes to anything, I'm usually good or I am terrible. So it's just no in between with me. So I'm either good at or I'm terrible. Like, I know what snowboarding and skiing. Like, I went skiing for the first time. I was terrible. Like, couldn't barely stay up. Hopped on a
Snowboarding, you good?
snowboard. I just took off.
I want to learn how to do that so bad. I'm the person who's pretty good at a lot of things. So I have to choose. It's like I want the universe to tell me no.
Yes.
But I can just be like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to focus on. But I'm like, oh, I'm pretty good at this thing. I could probably be an Olympic snowboarder out here. I'm 31 years old, trying to start a whole new career.
Yeah, that's how it be. So, and it's always, I have always the question that comes to me is, or the thing that comes to me, because I don't want to be good. Like, I want to skip good and go to great. So I don't want to get stuck on everything that I'm good at and I miss out on my opportunity to be great. And so that's one thing that kind of came to my mind. It's like, all right, you're good at this, but if you put some work into it, you can be great at this one thing. And so that's what I end up choosing and going.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think another value that we both are kind of learning in our journey, because it's like, I left my job in 2017, but I really do feel like there was a growth spurt around the time where we met. And one of the things that I know now that we say that is said a lot in entrepreneurship is like add value. When you go to a room, add value. And the story you just told is like organically you going into an event and them not necessarily knowing about the lighting and about the photography and stuff. So you were like doing that organically before it became a thing, right?
Yeah.
So could you speak a little bit more about the organic part about adding value, because I think once you learn, oh, gotta add value, then you be sitting here like, what can I do? What can I do? And it's like, can you sit down somewhere? Like if you, for me, I feel like if you don't necessarily, if it doesn't come to you, then maybe that's not supposed to be your moment. But I think that people walk into a room and be like, can I help you with this? And I'm like, you creating stuff that's not necessarily needed. What's your thought on adding value now that you've done it organically and have an entrepreneurial mind now?
Got you. I mean, I think adding value is cool, but like you said, I think it's just a trendy term at the moment. Back when I was doing it, like I didn't know. I was reading articles and going to YouTube, and then just putting those situations like, oh, hey, just do X, Y, and Z, and it's done.
Yeah.
So, but now I realize, like going to these seminars, these masterminds, everybody, they're not even saying like, how you doing? Like, what's your name? They're like, hey, how can I add value to you? It's like, bro, you don't even know who I am. You don't know what industry I'm in or what I'm doing. So I think, like you said, it's trendy right now, but I think that'll kind of die down and everybody go back to like the organic kind of feel of it.
So speaking of which, like when you think about when it does die down to being organic, what does that look like? If you could kind of poke a hole in people's mindset right now when they go in and just be like, how can I add value? What is that one thing that you need people to know for people who are following along in our footsteps, who need to know what that is like organically, to not run the play of adding value, but
Gotcha.
to really add value?
So two things that I think that people are going to need to do. One is observe. So that's me. Like I'm an introvert, so I observe you first before I actually jump in and give my 2 cents. So one, you're going to need to observe, and then two, you're going to need to ask questions. Because without asking questions, I don't know what you need. I don't know what you're looking for. I don't know your pain points, your challenges, or anything like that. So if you observe a person, maybe you may be ear hustling and overhear their conversation they're having with somebody else, and they realize, oh, I'm lacking this, so I need X, Y, and Z. So then you can step in. Or if you're just talking to that person organically, I mean, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have an awkward moment, because it's somebody new. So if you just ask a question, that can get the ball rolling, and then you'll start to find out information from there.
Yeah, I think asking questions, to take your advice from step 2 to step 3, I would say, like, let's say they need something that is not photography, like it's not in your lane, right? Like, and you notice that that's not necessarily something that you do add value. How do you stop there from like, or I guess honestly and truly, I'm thinking about it out loud. You asking questions, you might not ever get to a point where you have to add value, or you add anything, because after you've asked questions, you're like, okay, well, there's no room for me to add anything. Do you calculate that kind of stuff? Are you pretty much like,
I mean, I think you can always add value to someone. It might not necessarily be in your field. So I may not have found the second shooter or the lighting setup I was looking at, but talking to you, you may have helped me unlock something in my personal life that I'm dealing with. So it doesn't have to necessarily be direct to what that you're for.
break it down then. I'm glad I asked you that question, because when you add value, it doesn't have to be like business related. It doesn't have to be somebody who needs photography advice. You could literally, and I think when it comes to you have a very even keel, like soul, like kind of spirit. Like it's not like super one way or the other. It's really just dope talking to you. So I think that people could get groundedness just by talking to you. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's good sometimes, and sometimes it get me in trouble because people are like, oh, you're always so nonchalant. Like, I need you to have some emotion. So I just feel like somebody always told me back in the day, never get too high on your highs and never get too low on your lows. So that's how I rock.
That's some feedback that I can possibly take in my own life. We have to, see how that growth becomes a thing. Because listen, I get an email response and I do a little dance. And the same happens when I hit a small low. So I have to like pull myself out of that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Absolutely. I think there's another thing that I wanted to get into with you, and it's kind of like on the community engagement tip. So like when I hear your community engagement, and we dropped a clip about how you actually learn how to be effective as a mentor. So I thought that was actually really dope for you to drop that as a gem, because the way that I came into mentoring, it was like I got all this information I want to give, and they're going to receive it, and that's it. Yeah. But the way you explain it, it's like this iterative process where you have to tap into to their mindset, plant a seed, and then let it grow. Right. Yep. So one, I like that mindset, but on the tip of like work and play, the way that I envision it also is to be able to do this type of work alongside professionals, right? Skills-based volunteering, being able to tap into the community. So if you would share a little bit about like when you got the niche or the itch to like help people in the community and be a bridge, right? If
No,
you could
that's
touch on that a little bit, I would love it.
Yeah, so community service has really been a part of my life since I was younger. I want to say it was in middle school. So I lived in Alexandria, and in the area that I lived in, I had a couple friends. They would go out on Fridays. They would go do an activity. They would stay over at a gentleman's house, and then on Saturday they would do community service. And so that's kind of how I got involved. Some of my friends was like, "Yo, come join." So this guy, his name is Russ Sullivan. So he's a mentor that I have today, and he is actually the one who founded the Capital Area Reach program that I was talking about. And so probably from like sixth grade up, I was into it way into college. So I was in it for a long time. And so, like I said, he started with an activity. So most of the time it was basketball or like a movies on Friday. He would stay over like Saturday. He would have like kind of like a small mastermind. We would talk about the Bible or talk about any attributes, and then we would do a community service project, and then you go home, right?
Yeah.
And so that started off young, and it always stuck with me. And so I was kind of like the pilot program going through that, the group of guys that I was with. And so we seen it start to finish. I mean, it's still going on now, but we've seen it through our entire journey. So from having those mentors, people that can relate to you, some people came in because they just kind of want to be close to Russ because he was kind of like a well-known name in the area. So you will realize that some people, they really wasn't there for the kids. They was just there to be close to him. And you'll realize that when it's time for them. So he will be on a lot of the adventures, but let's say we need to split off and do something. You go specifically with them, and then you'll see their true colors. Because they're like, "Oh, I ain't doing this. I ain't doing that." And it's just like, oh, like, okay. And so I kind of learned from that aspect. And then as we got older, more success, he would ask us to fill in like, "Hey, I need you to come speak at this event, or I need you to run this program in this neighborhood." And so we would start taking those positions, and it just kind of grew from there. So you develop those leadership skills, those community service skills, those, just being able to interact with people.
That's dope. Every time I talk to you, I get a different lens of how I can do the work that I do better, right? Like community engagement is really dope, but I think that this level of this next phase of entrepreneurship, I didn't think about that, desire that some people might have to do volunteer work specifically because they're tied to another person, right? Because it looks good. Now, I do know that when I was in corporate, there were some people who would volunteer just because they would be able to network with somebody in this other department, and then they'd be able to do it. So I guess technically that makes sense, but I think that's a learning that I just got right then. It's a seed you just planted. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah. So those of you guys who are just joining, we're having a conversation with Brandon Ramsey. If you are watching on Instagram, you can join us on YouTube. Come on over to YouTube. You can click the link in my bio. It's more folks watching us at the side than they are right here. So
yeah, that's why I keep trying to make sure I look over, but
yeah, we're here for you, but we want you to come to YouTube. So just click the link in my bio. Come find us on YouTube so we can look directly in your faces and tell you guys a little bit more about what we got going on. So that part of your journey, like the community engagement, is dope. I personally like it because I intend to bring a lot of us together. There's so many things that I'm working on where we get to do that authentically. But you just reminded me that I have to remember to source volunteers for their authenticity, because when you're working with young people, they can see that from a mile away.
And sometimes you don't know until they get in their position, because everybody can put on a front for however so long it is. So yeah, I mean, you'll find out as you go.
Yeah. We spend a lot of time talking about my vision of work and play. And I know this is the Work and Play podcast, but I'm curious about your vision. What is your vision? When you left your job, when you were like daydreaming about what life could be, what was that?
It was not waking up in the morning and hating where I'm about to go. Like having that thought, sometimes you get up, you're like, man, I just don't feel like it today. It was actually being financially stable for my mom, for my family, my brother, my sister, being able to provide my sister with, so my goal for my sister is to provide her $20,000 so she can start her own esthetician, company. So she works for a person right now, but she's She's dope at what she do, and I just wanted to be able to just hand her a lump sum money, like, hey, let's go get you a location. You can start your own thing.
Let's go.
So,
Sis, you hear that? Hold brother accountable.
So yeah, that's one of the goals that I have. And then also I want to, like, this year, I want to take over my mom's bills. Like, I don't want her to be struggling no more, trying to pay bills, stressing where it's going to come from. I just want to be able to put that into my income, my salary, whatever it may be, and just take that off her plate and let her live her life. So those are two things that I envisioned when I was quitting. And that is my why, and that's what keeps me going. So my family is what keeps me going. And I know that's a better life than what I was living before.
Yeah. Speaking of your why, I think that I was talking to someone who hasn't left their job yet. And we were talking about the fundamentals of being able to leave and the things that you should have in place before you go. Outside of the exit strategy, I think knowing your why, like you mentioned, I think that's the thing that kind of keeps you moving forward. That's how I would describe it. Like, when you think about your why, and then actually letting that why keep you here for at least 2 years in your journey, what's the biggest or like, how would you describe the growth that you've experienced? And then how do you like envision that why keeping you on the journey?
The growth from being at the job or since quitting the job?
Since quitting the job.
That growth, it's been substantial. But I feel like right now that I'm finally catching my breath, because I feel like when I quit, being in a 9 to 5, it's a steady pace. Like, I know what I'm doing. Someone else is taking all the overhead. I just got to do X, Y, and Z. But once you get into that entrepreneurial space, it's just like everything is 100 miles and running, and you're doing multiple things right now. Like, okay, I got to shoot tomorrow, but let me take this call right now. I need to go drop this off. I need to go do that. And I was just like, yo, what is going on right now? Like, I need to be able to find a pace, catch, my breath and everything. And so, like, when it comes to the DISC assessment, I'm a high S and a high C, so I like structure and everything. So but just to be all over the place, it don't work for me. So it was at one point I was telling one of my mentors, Brandon, I was like, yo, like, I need to step back. I need to get something in order, because this ain't gonna work for me. I'm gonna run myself crazy. Yeah. And so I see the growth, and I see a lot of things that I've implemented that they taught me that is helping me get to that growth place. Because, being in the entrepreneur space and actually being in Atlanta, I don't necessarily have family down here. So a lot of the time I'm alone. So I'll be in a house sometimes and I'm like, all right, bro, like, are you going to quit and you're going to go back home? Like, what's about to be your next move? And I'm like, that's not an option. Like, so I'm going to have to dig in, get it done. Like, I may not be able to go eat this week. We're going to eat these ramen noodles, but shit, we're going to get it done so I can keep it moving on track. And so I've definitely seen the growth in myself. And then asking God to be aware of those situations. Because, a lot of stuff we do subconsciously. But now some of those situations I'll get in, I'll be like, okay, hey, Brandon, this is one of those moments. What are you going to do? What are you going to choose? Are you going to do, what you're not supposed to do, or you're going to do the right thing? So I've been aware of them a lot more, and I definitely see my growth over that. And I know going forward, that faith is building, the confidence is building in myself, and it's just going to be, I think this next phase is going to be crazy.
Man, I agree. I 100% like to be able to just witness the growth from this point forward. I'm excited because I know that thing it's painful. It really does feel like a spiritual growth spurt. Yeah. And so you mentioned in the why, you even talking about like getting ready to like quit. Like, can I just go back? Like having that thought, to be transparent enough for you to share that.
Yeah. So it took me a while. Like that journey or that process of quitting was like, it was unlearning and relearning, because, you hear everything that people tell you, like, you need to do this needs to be in place. Why would you quit and do that when you have, a stable job,
benefits.
Yeah. And so and at first that was cool because it kind of kept me there. I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't have 6 months saved up. I do got benefits. My job allows me to live anywhere. I'm 100% remote. Like, I'm cool. And so I played that out in my head for a couple months. It worked. It was like, all right, you cool. And then it got to a point, it was like, nah, this ain't it. Like, something different. And what was crazy, because I was a consultant. So it was a technology company, but it was for educational purpose. So like career readiness and things for students to get them ready. And I was on the road maybe like 90% of the time. So I went to Michigan to speak to these teachers so they can implement the program to their students. And it was funny because I got done speaking for lunch. I went to go sit down, and there was a gentleman that sat across from me, and he just looked at me, and it was a black guy. So, we kind of connected, but I was like, why is he just looking at me like, what's up? And he was like, bro, you're not going to be here for long. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, your gift is not teaching us teachers. He was like, you too far removed from your gift. And I was just like, what? Like, really threw me off, because I'm like, I sat down to eat my lunch, and he just came with this powerful conversation. And I was like, okay. So he was like, yeah, man. He was like, I'm glad that you're here. You're teaching us. We were able to relate to the information. You didn't make it too technical. He was like, but this not what you're supposed to be doing. He was like, I'll give you a year at the max, and you're going to be out of here. And that always stuck me, like, on my way back. And I'm just like, how does he know that? Who is this guy? Like, where did he come from? And so, yeah, it was just crazy to receive that from someone who I've never seen, touched, or anything like that, just to come. Boom. It wasn't even hi, my name is such as that. That was the first thing he said, like, nah, bro.
You're not going to be here that long.
Yeah. So that was
Have you ever read The Alchemist?
No, I haven't. I just purchased it and downloaded it.
Oh, okay. Somebody told you to. Somebody told you to listen to it. Or you've been wanting to read it?
Yeah, it was on my list, and I just got it.
I'm trying to tell you. So anybody who is listening right now, if y'all listening on Instagram or here, yes, Alchemist is a fictional book. But read the prologue. I will tell you that, Brandon, because a lot of people don't read the prologue. But the story is like so real, and it's in alignment with a lot of our stories who, just follow the calling, right? There's strategy to put behind like that exit, taking care of your purpose, your money, like the bills and stuff. But then there's you got to listen. And so I'm going to let you read. I'm not going to give you no spoilers. If y'all saw The Alchemist, then you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, what Brandon just said, and why I said I'm excited for him to watch or read The Alchemist. But yeah, that's amazing. I really do appreciate your story. And I appreciate you opening up.
Yeah, it's funny because I just see my bro just kind of stepped in here. So shout out to Danny. It was funny because I've grown up with Danny since I was probably in fifth grade, third, fourth, fifth grade. And so we've always been together. We always had a connection. But me and him were talking recently. He was like, bro, it's things I didn't know about your life. And he was like, to be honest, I don't know how you keep going. He was just like, you had a lot of things happen. And I see he put it here that he has a story. So it's a lot of things that we talked about, and people trying to get me to actually say it on camera. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but I definitely got a story, and I probably need to write it down or actually say it out loud to somebody.
Yeah. The power of putting those things in words. Those things in words. I think that I don't necessarily take pen to paper all the time. I do journal a lot, but it's the nitty gritty, the nooks and crannies of your story. That is what Danny is saying you need to share, right? But the more you get comfortable sharing it, the more you'll be able to see it touch other people.
Yeah. And I think that's what helps me to relate to a lot of people. And that's probably where the even keelness comes from. Because it's like, okay, I've been through some things in my life. So if this ain't tier 1 emergency, we good. We're going to get through it. So, from that, I think that's probably where that comes from. And it helps me relate to a lot of people. Like I was saying, when it comes to some of the students that were in the program, they were living in, not great circumstances. So they would be like, oh, well, you don't know because you drive this or you live here. And I'm like, no, bro, I grew up a couple blocks down the street. I know about X, Y, and Z. I went to such and such school. I know your struggles. I know the situation that you're in right now. I can speak to it. And so once them knowing that, it's like, all right. So he's not just an outsider. He actually lived through it. So he probably know a little something about what I'm about to go through in my life. So
yeah. And there's something to say about that. Being in corporate, being a corporate volunteer. I realized I was received differently than other volunteers from corporate because no, I didn't have that experience. I honestly didn't, but I came from a place where I understand what you're going through and I want you to get up out of there.
Yeah.
It honestly doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies to be here, but I just felt like I have to tell you what I need to tell you in order for you to get yourself together. So if you don't, that's on you.
Yeah.
But if you want to get yourself out of the situation, I remember having that conversation many, many times. And I think that's probably why I connected, because they can detect BS so easily.
Yeah, because I mean, like when you get on there, when you go into a situation like that, when you have kids, adults, whatever it is, everybody's on the surface up front. Oh, hey, my name is such and such. But you're gonna have those moments. Maybe you have to go do an activity where you're gonna peel off, and you're gonna have these small groups. So that one-on-one interaction with that person, they're gonna realize, they're gonna feel it if it's genuine or not. They're like,
Right.
nah, bro, you just here just for X, Y, and Z. Like, no. So when you start to have those conversations and you start to relate to people, it allows them to open up, and then they can start to, you can start to plant that seed so they can start to change their life.
There we go with the seed, y'all. So here we are. We are on both Instagram and Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So I'm gonna allow questions to come from anywhere. If y'all have questions for Brandon, we got a couple more seconds up in here. If y'all have questions about his journey, about photography specifically, about going into entrepreneurship. One thing I like about the way you explain the journey is you kind of break it down into bite-sized chunks. I guess that comes from you being able to like plant seeds and stuff. But if you guys have questions and you're curious about like what does life look like after the 9 to 5, specifically corporate and consulting is like even like that's like the epicenter of corporate. People be like, I want to be a consultant, like, and you were there.
Yeah, it's not for the weak either.
Listen, we at my company, we got a lot of consultants from Deloitte, and we thought life was tough. But when they got there, they was like, "Oh, this is a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Only 50 hours a week."
Yeah, because I had one of my friends, he actually went to Deloitte, and it was just like, man, the stuff that you do every day. So yeah, it's that consulting is not for the weak. So because you're managed, but you're not micromanaged. So it's basically all on you, and you're running these projects for these other companies. Like me, I was running projects for schools all across the United States, and it was like, bro, you mess up a whole school system. So yeah, it's definitely not for the weak.
Heck no, heck no. All right, I'm checking to see if there are any questions. I do have one more question. Oh, nope, maybe I won't have my question because I see a question coming in from Instagram. It says, "Oh, what are your goals for the next 2 years?" That's a good simple one. What are your goals for the next 2 years?
My goals for the next 2 years is to short term this year's take over my mom's bills. Make that 6 figures this year. I gotta crack that 6 figures. And then after that, I need to scale my business, find a nice young lady that I can talk to, and then think about getting a house or a condo somewhere.
I love it. I love it. Can I tell a story about Afro Soca? Okay, y'all. I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was in a line. We were at this party called Afro Soca Love. I say we because Brandon hits me up and he's like, "Hey, you at Afro Soca Love?" And I'm in like the line getting something to drink. But it was doing much more than that if y'all ever been to a Caribbean party. But anyway, the man, he texted me and I was like, you know what? Not only are we both entrepreneurs, right? But you like the same music, right? You also like have this community like civic engagement mind. And just you was cool enough to hit me up and be like, I'm here. So I tried to pull up on you were gone, but you're very real and down to earth. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
That's the only way I know to be. And I love soca music, man. I had my college roommate, shout out my man Jamal. Like he put me on and I have been on go time ever since.
Listen, I was just saying my knees are still mad at me, but that was the question we had. One question. Let me make sure we don't have any more. Find a wife and home. Absolutely. So we got some homey vibes. Brandon comes with all of it. He's gonna be a cool dad too. I can feel it. Oh, Danny said, write your book.
Okay.
Okay. So we heard it. I don't see any more questions in the chat, and that we are at our 30 minutes, and I really do want to respect your time and so that you can get back to your 6 figures. But those of you guys who have joined us for this episode of the Work and Play replay, after you check this out, it'll be on YouTube, but you can also check out the full episode 70 of the Work and Play podcast with Brandon Ramsey. He talked a lot more about the journey, a lot more about consulting, and a lot more about his journey from corporate to entrepreneur. So Brandon, you have any final words? How can they find you? And what are the things that you're offering? I know I can't keep you as like a solo photographer right now. Once I get Beyonce money, maybe. But what are some of the things you're offering right now?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at BRANDN. There's no O _ Ramsey. So that's for photography needs, for photo booth needs. So if you just want to kick it and chill, you can hit me up there. And so I do offer, so a lot of what I do is I help businesses, brands, and entrepreneurs define their visual identity through visual content. So whether that be photography, we're moving into like the reels, short, content, everything that comes with that. So I just help you define your visual identity so you can get to your target audience, so you can start to monetize your, content, whether it's on social media or any other platform. And I just help you build that out and establish it and grow it.
Let's go. If y'all need help, tap in. And when you see my content level up, just know that's because he helped me. All right, y'all. So if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to Brandon, Brandon_Ramsey. And those of you guys who are tuning in on YouTube, thank y'all so much. We are out of here. Peace.
Thank you, Ariel.